At the petrol station, the driver was a very sweet Prabhuji. He got out. I remember he looking at me, smiling. He put the petrol in. It was raining nicely. I remember there was chanting bag in my hand. AC was coming, so it felt really good. I was chanting. Next I know, I'm opening my eyes, and my father is on the floor of the bus, and like bloody. And then we're going, and then I can hear this old couple sitting behind me, and now the bus looks different. They're sitting and they're crying and calling out in pain. Next I know, the door opens, and then my mom is telling, she's my daughter, and she's talking in Hindi and everything. And so I really don't. Next, it smells like a hospital. We're in the hospital. Then I come, and then suddenly says, oh, are you Sridhar's sister? My brother's name is Sridhar. And then they take me to this room. He is 3 years old. So he's sitting on this chair, just like how we saw Narottam Vilas Prabhu now. And there were like doctors all around him. They're putting like syringe here or there. People are talking. And he saw me and he screams out, oh, Chichi, like elder sister, like that. And then they quickly take me away. So what happened was, we're going to Barsana. It was raining heavily. On our way, the bus skidded because I think we came to know the driver was trying to overtake this person in front of us. Bus skidded. So that itself is an accident, right? And it skidded, but it went to the other side of the road. An oncoming bus from that side, which was a huge public, those red color big buses, it came and hit our bus and crashed our bus. In that bus, 3 people died, and our bus was just a Matador van, actually. The driver passed away on spot. When we entered the bus, I remember, so me and my friend, we sat in the front, so that, we were sitting in the front. So my father, he's very careful about children and child protection, all that. So as soon as he saw us sitting there, he said, no. And then my brother came and sat next to me. So 3 kids were in the front, right? So he pushed me to go back and sit with my mom. And mom's like, oh, now we can spend time together. So she encouraged me to sit with her. So I sat with her. But because my father, my brother, and my friend, his name is Vaishnav, sat in the front, they got injured really bad because it's a Matador van. My father lost both his kneecaps. It was crushed. Like people, his doctors used to tell him that, oh, he used to say that, oh, I actually sit down and give classes, Bhagavad Gita classes for an hour and a half. Can I do that? And they said, no, you cannot use the Indian closet anymore, as in sit down and use that, because your leg will never function the same. But that he is still sitting on the floor and giving classes, and it's only because of Narsimhadev. My dad, if you see, like both his eyebrows are not leveled, it's because, everything came out and they had to fix it. So, yeah, it was a very... Gaur Govinda, His Holiness Bhakti Bringa Govinda Swami Maharaj met us after this accident in Bahrain, and he was telling us, Krishna gave you a second life, because it was really that everybody was perfectly, affected. And it was really that, because such a big vehicle came, and in that vehicle people passed away, but here only our driver passed away, and he passed away in Vrindavan. So it was really Krishna's protection. So,
Thank you. So we're talking about protect the omnipotence. Krishna acts in some mysterious ways where a coincidence happens inconceivably. Thank you for sharing that.
Would anyone else like to share something?
Hare Krishna. So I've already shared this with Chaitanya Charan Prabhu last year. So last year we were, so this is also an example of omnipotence and seemingly miraculous thing. So 1 year ago we were going to, on the 4th of July weekend, we were going to the Glacier Lake in Montana, and we thought we'll save our day and let's drive in the night. So everybody was driving, and we chose like one of the friends' Audis, and then like, okay, we'll go like that. And then it was early, like 4 a.m. or something, and we were around 75 miles per hour in Montana, and we hit an elk. Actually, it was blown into pieces, by the way. And we were on the right side, and it was a fraction of seconds we landed on the other side of the road. But it was a solid car, like, so, all of us were fine. And it was like in a fraction of a second, we saw like this, I thought it was like an angel or something. It was like huge, like height of a horse. And I was in the middle, and fortunately I was sitting in the front. I went back, and in the middle I was wearing the seatbelt. If I would not have worn a seatbelt, I would have just flown through the windshield outside. And first thing is like, in general, we like the middle seat people don't wear seat belts, and I don't know, I decided to wear a seat belt. Secondly, like I was in a relatively solid car and not in a sedan, and none, like all five of us walked out of the car without a scratch. And like it's just nothing can explain this, but it was, I think it's just a second chance, like you said. Means just to think of the possibilities where it could have gone is scary. So I think it's perfectly from what Prabhuji said. It's the omnipotence, and it's a seemingly miraculous thing. Can't explain it why it happened, but it is another chance. So that's what I can think of. It's 1 year, so the memory is still fresh, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Anyone else want to share another car accident?
Mataji hand.
Yeah.
To the beach once here in Oregon with my mother, my son, and my nephew, as good about 25 years ago. And we were out on the road in Sherwood, and we were at a stop sign, and there's a highway that goes in front of us that's a pretty major highway that people travel very fast on. And the light turned, our light turned green. And for some reason, I hesitated for just a couple of seconds. And then we started out, and a car passed with a foot in front of us doing about 50 miles an hour. And it made me realize God's perfect timing, that he has everything timed down to the second. And we were very appreciative.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So I'm pretty sure it was 2018. What happened is that we went to like Mount Hood to go skiing, and like it was like really dark. Like it was the last one that I was gonna do, but I didn't know I was supposed to turn left, so I kept going straight because it looked like a hill, and then but it was like a ledge. So like, and right below that was like the parking lot, and like there was like a 12-foot cliff basically. And I like landed on my back, and then after some time people found me and took me to the hospital, and then like the doctor said that I should have broken some bones or something, but I just like came out with like a few bruises here and there. So yeah, by Krishna's mercy I survived. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So this was again 2018. Hello. So this was my first time when I came to the US. I was not the rules of the road. So I used to cross wherever I wanted instead of crossing on the crosswalk, because there are no cars. Why do I have to wait? So there was this one time I was listening to Radhanath Swami Maharaj's lecture on Dhruv Maharaj, and how I was just listening, and then I remember crossing the road. I didn't see a car. I'm pretty basic, but then the car was coming so fast, and I was just right in front of the car. And at that moment, I knew that with the speed it was coming at me, and we were like maybe inches away. How they say the last thing you remember, that is what you desire. I don't know. The last thing I remembered was all this education, all this masters, like all so insignificant. Like that was the last, just before I got hit. I was like, so many aspirations, so many goals, everything that I was having, everything is going to come to an end right now. My family doesn't know this, by the way. And then finally, the car hit, and then I just, did like a spinning wheel, and then I hit the road. But then the guy got out. He's like, "Are you okay?" And then they took me. I didn't feel anything at that point. I just stood up. I was so scared that I will go to jail. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was apologizing to the driver, which I should be. But I just walked and was like, please, you can go. And this guy, like, no. He made me sit. Then he called the ambulance and all. Within like 60 seconds, the ambulance, the fire truck, and the police came in. And all three of them were checking. And then they was like, you're alive. I was like, yeah, I'm alive. Can you walk? I can walk. How? I don't know. And then overall, they just, the paramedics, they came, they just checked everything. And then they're like, yeah, I think you're good to go. But next time, just look where you're crossing. Here, you have to cross on the crossroad. It's like, yeah, I'll remember. Lesson learned. But I think that last thought stuck to me quite a lot, because you, in the face of death, I mean, I don't want to use such harsh words, but it's very so much you aspire for in your life, all these material things. At that point, I felt so insignificant. All these things that I've done, so insignificant that no one is going to remember. So from that day on, I think I be a little more cognizant of whether what I do really matters, and put a little more thought into my spiritual life. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So like I must have been like 2 or 3 at that time. So I went into the kitchen one time and I saw this there's this milk pan on the stove, and I was quite hungry, so I tried to take the milk out of it. So and it tipped over the container, and all the boiling hot milk fell over me, and my skin started peeling and stuff, and it was kind of gory. And I got rushed to the ER, and it could have been worse, but Krishna saved me and gave me a second life.
Hare Krishna. So this was many years ago. I think in the 90s, late 90s, with a group of friends, me and my wife, we were living in Bangalore, and we decided to go on a hike, a multi-day hike with a group of friends, with like your tent and your sort of sleeping whatever mat on your back. And we kind of underestimated our stamina, so we hiked for like 6-7 hours up a mountain, and then we were like, we can't continue hiking for like 2 more days like this. But we were so thick in the jungle. Do you remember that? Yeah. And we were talking to the group who were more experienced hikers, and we wanted to go back, but there was no way we could go back, and neither could we go forward, and we were in a big dilemma what to do. We didn't want to hold up the whole group, and we were like completely out of energy, and it was a very difficult situation. And then out of nowhere, in the middle of the jungle, a young boy sort of came. No. And he said, so somebody asked, why don't you ask him, maybe. So he said, yeah, I'm going down the mountain and going towards the city. So if you want, you can accompany me, and there's a last bus, like at wherever the trail met the road. So what we had covered hiking up in 6 or 7 hours, he kind of kept encouraging us throughout, and in 2 hours we hiked down. And the moment we reached the road, within 5 minutes, there was a bus that was coming. He told us that's the last bus. And all three of us got in. And it was also sort of happening. Everything was like, we were completely exhausted. Then after like half an hour or 1 hour, when we reached our destination, and I remember the bus didn't stop anywhere in the middle. It stopped at wherever that small town. So I was I thought I'll, thank that boy, and he was nowhere to be found. So I don't know what happened. Maybe I slept off, and I was standing, so it's not like I could have slept off in the bus. So, but maybe he might have, I don't know where he went, but I didn't see him again. But I see that from, that time itself, I felt I wasn't very much into Krishna consciousness at that time and all, but I really felt that God saved us at that time. And otherwise we would have been in some real trouble, either lost in the jungle or something. So that was very impactful for us. Hare Krishna.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah.
Maybe after this one, we can maybe after this, share, we can proceed. You can give us that.
So basically, I was like 5, and it was like Independence Day in US, and I was like in my neighborhood, one of these houses. I was like in with my friend, and we were like doing the fireworks, and like, so basically my 5-year-old self decided to sit on the balcony. I don't know why. And then her mom, my friend's mom, said that don't sit on there, you could fall. And I'm like, no. And then I got off, and then I went back on again. And then she's like, don't do that. And then I did it one more time anyway, and then crash. And then like my nose like literally just cracked, and I was bleeding and crying and in like an absolute depressed state. And then my dad was like, oh God. And then he like took me home, and then like I got like help, and like I had a band-aid on my nose for 2 months, and I looked absolutely ugly, and then I recovered. I don't know, just something.
Please.
Can I tell one?
Please.
So this didn't involve me, but I observed. So I was in medical school doing surgery. We call them rotations, where you go through different specialties. And I was in the plastic surgery team. And they brought in, maybe she was like a 4 or 5-year-old girl. And she had basically, in Chicago, you have like sometimes 3-story flats, where your family might be occupying one of the floors. And she, being a little child, had leaned out her window, and her window had like a metallic framework. And in Chicago, because it's an old inner city, so most of the wires are not underground, they're above ground. So she took her grandma's cane, which was metallic, and she grabbed on. She tried to grab the live wire, which brings electricity in. So the electricity went from the wire through the cane into her hand, down this way and down this way, and then came out of her tummy. Like a circuit was closed that way. And so I think we were in the operating room for probably like 12 hours, cleaning up all the areas, because basically it kills off all the tissue, dead. And her blood vessel had been destroyed. So basically you had to take all the skin from her hand and from her her forearm. And then the surgeon was pretty brilliant, because the main artery to the arm was destroyed. So we took what was left, further closer to her heart, and made a, most of you that want to go to med school might be interested. He made like a zigzag sinusoidal cut in the stomach, and there's a blood vessel that runs underneath your stomach wall. And he brought her arm like this because she was missing tissue here. But here, luckily her bowel wasn't damaged, because that was our main fear, that her bowel was destroyed, but it wasn't. So brought her arm like this and basically kind of paddled it and connected the blood vessel from the tummy into the blood vessel from the arm. So basically her arm was like cradled into her own skin for about a week, and trying to preserve her arm, basically, because without blood flow, any limb will die. And we were very optimistic, because after that very long, overnight, next day operation, she looked good. And we checked her blood flow was actually the blood vessel from the tummy was pumping into her arm. So we were happy with that. But after a couple of days, the blood flow died, and her arm had to be amputated. But I saw her nature, in spite of such trauma at such a young age. For her, she was very satisfied and peaceful. And I thought, Lord's protection also comes in ways that don't necessarily fit our categorization of what is protection and what's destruction. And her means of acceptance and moving through her life as best as she could, given the permanent disability that she encountered, to me was very faith strengthening. That Bhagwan empowers personalities to accept sometimes things that are very materially unfavorable in a manner that they can keep functioning. So, being in my field, I've seen this innumerable times. So it's always, there's always the miraculous, but sometimes the miracle is something bad really did happen, and the person made it through and developed a view of life that was helpful to them to live their life. So, anyways, Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for sharing, and also shared. And thank you everyone else for not sharing. So let's have a concluding session. Om Jnanatirandhasya Jnananjalishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we discussed till now about how Krishna is the protector. Now, Goptrutve Varnam Tatha. That is the fourth limb, that Krishna is also our maintainer. And this is actually a relatively deeper level of appreciation of Krishna's role in our life. I hope to write a book on gratitude in future. I was contemplating this one time. There is gratitude for the extraordinary. Like many of you mentioned, some extraordinary ways in which Krishna helped and protected. So in one sense, gratitude for the extraordinary is ordinary. If something miraculous happens in our life, and we'll naturally feel grateful, we'll feel awed, we'll feel inspired. But another way of looking at it is gratitude for the ordinary is extraordinary. That in many ways, our daily life itself is a miracle. If we consider the sheer number of things that need to go right for us to function, how our body's mechanism works, how the world's mechanisms work. So in the Bhagavad Gita's 15th chapter, when Krishna talks about developing God consciousness, developing Krishna consciousness, he says that generally that journey begins with, if this is an embodied soul. Now generally it is not so easy if this is the material domain in which we are existing. Now above this is the spiritual domain. Now the spiritual domain is much bigger, but I'm just putting it for representational purposes. For us, the material domain is much bigger. That's what matters most for us. So it is difficult to see the spiritual directly, to see Krishna directly. Ultimately, the supreme spiritual reality is Krishna. So seeing Krishna directly, it's possible, but it's difficult. That's why he says you learn to see Krishna in the material. That means, for example, he says that we look at the world and we see how the arrangement by which we get heat, light, air, that itself is not something which we have made arrangement for. So it is a simple thought, but actually it's a deep insight if you get it, is that our existence depends on something beyond our existence, and something that is far, far bigger than us. So Krishna talks about this at various levels. Actually, if you start from 15, 12, 13, 14, at 12 he talks about the cosmological level. How without the sun, we couldn't survive. But the sun gives heat and light. And that arrangement is ultimately made by him. Then he talks at the terrestrial, earthly level. How we need, even if the earth is existing, how does the earth sustain itself? We may say it's gravity, but where does gravity come from? It ultimately comes from the Lord. Then he talks about the environmental level, where he says, actually this also he talks on 13th, sorry. He talks about how the food that we eat, it's amazing that there are different living beings, they have different kinds of food requirements, but every living being gets that food. And then he talks about the physiological level, how our body is working. He represents it through the digestive system. And sometimes we say, if I don't work, is God going to provide me food? Well, if God doesn't work, even the food we earn, we will not be able to digest it. Isn't it? It's generally the only time we think about our digestion is when it doesn't work. We just eat food and we think it's fine. Yeah, it's just normal. But actually, the reality is that God gives and forgives. We get and forget. So we get and we forget. So just our daily existence is also dependent on the Lord. And when you can appreciate that, that is a much deeper level of God consciousness. Just like a child, the parents give a toy to the child. The child is very happy. Now, yes, from the child's perspective, that toy is very important. But the parents are working hard to provide daily food, clothes, education. Now, those things, the child may, okay, yeah, that's fine, but this is special. So like that, for us also, when something extraordinary happens, that's what we think, this is special. But even the ordinary is extraordinary. And one aspect of deepening our surrender to Krishna. I earlier talked about this, the 4 levels at which people may approach God. Do you remember that? Did we discuss this here? Which are the 4 levels? Fear, desire, duty, love. Now, if we consider these levels, fear is that if I don't obey God, He may punish me. Desire is if I obey God, He will reward me. But duty is not that what God will do to me or for me, it is what God has already done for me. So that requires a greater level of wisdom, insight, appreciation. And of course, we want to go beyond the duty to love. But the nature of the mind in the conditioned world is it keeps flickering. So sometimes we may feel great attraction toward the Lord. Sometimes we may not feel that much attraction. Sometimes we start chanting and we get such like a taste or inside each other. We want to chant more rounds. But some days we take the beads and then we think, has somebody replaced 108 beads with 1008 beads? This is just not getting over. So our experience will change because that's just the nature of the mind. So we cannot at our stage generally experience love very easily, but at least if we understand that Krishna has already done so much for me. So both of these actually can bring gratitude. But if our desires are fulfilled, there's some gratitude. But if we understand that Krishna has already done so much for me, at this level, the gratitude is more intermittent. That whenever some desire is fulfilled, whenever something is given to us, we feel grateful. But at this level, it is steady because the Lord has already done so much for us. So, Goptrutve Varnam Tatha, that when we go through life, it is possible that we can remember not just the special things that happen during the day or during the course of our life, but even the ordinary things that there are. There is so much that is extraordinary about it. And then that can help us to develop this sense that Krishna is my maintainer. Now, this does not mean that we don't endeavor. The way the world has been arranged, that we also have to endeavor. But now, holistic understanding, if you want to be Krishna conscious, we understand that there is our endeavor and there is God's arrangement, there is Krishna's arrangement. Now, in a very preliminary state, we think that our endeavor is what plays the primary role. And God's arrangement is secondary. In fact, initially, we not only think that our endeavor is primary, we think that this is what is central. And then, if I have done my endeavor, everything should work out. And we almost think that God's arrangement is our entitlement. It should happen. I worked hard, I should get this. But it's not that simple. Sometimes, so many times we may endeavor, but sometimes results won't come. So this is the initial understanding that we think this is what is primary, and this is almost like incidental. Yeah, it's like expected to happen. But over a period of time, we start understanding. Just like every morning, when the birds wake up in the forest, they wake up and they start chirping and they start searching for seeds. If they're searching, now sometimes they have to exert themselves quite a bit to find the seeds that they can eat. Their endeavor is no doubt there, but their endeavor does not create the seeds. Their endeavor is only to search the seeds, and the seeds are already created and provided. And that we say, okay, maybe some farmers made the seeds and some got spilled out, or some natural plants are there which can be eaten. But their endeavor is only searching for them. Their endeavor is not in creating them. So in one sense, as we evolve this is what I'm talking about is, if we consider at the initial stage in our Krishna consciousness, at the initial stage in our Krishna consciousness, we think that God's role is almost secondary. But as we will evolve, we'll start realizing that it is our endeavor that is actually secondary. And it is Krishna's arrangement that is primary. So without God making some arrangement for the seeds to be there, it is that birds will not be able to find the seeds. Similarly, without the divine arrangement providing for our needs, we will not be able to have anything. We may have so many food processing plants in the world, but there is no food producing plant, in the sense that we cannot start from scratch and make food. We have to have some natural resource which we don't make, and from there we change it in some way and we make food. So that's why in some ways, the closer we are to nature, the closer we are able to see Krishna's role, God's arrangement in our life. That's why sometimes some people, we can either eat food made of plants, or we can eat food made in plants. So, or made in plants, or made by plants. Even plants, then we said, okay, where does food come from? There was a cartoon I saw. Teacher is asking a student, where does milk come from? And child says, from my fridge. So we just get caught in our own tiny world, and we don't realize that there is so much arrangement behind it. And then we could say the highest level of realization is even more, that it is not it's not just Krishna's arrangement is in terms of, when we are saying our endeavor and God's arrangement, that means generally say our endeavor is things that are in my control, that I do, and God's arrangement is things beyond our control. So eventually we understand that actually both are Krishna's mercy, because we think it's my arrangement, it's my endeavor, but we understand our capacity to endeavor also comes from Krishna. Our capacity, somebody might be very good in language, somebody might be good in music, somebody might be good in so our ability, energy, whatever it is, they all come from Krishna. It is, and sometimes we can realize it, especially when something that we think is natural and just a part of me, suddenly we're not able to do it. This is the realization that Arjuna gets towards the end of his manifest Leela over here, when he is trying to shoot arrows, and for a warrior, there are different ways of being defeated or thwarted. It's like, suppose there's a champion cricket bowler, and that person tries to say, that person is famous for bowling a googly. No, most of you know what is a googly. If you don't, this example will go googly for you. Yeah, googly is a ball that swings in an extremely unpredictable way, and the batsman finds it very difficult to bat. So now, say a bowler tries to bowl a googly, and somehow they try to bowl, the ball doesn't get bowled like that. If you're celebrated as a googly bowler, you can't bowl a googly, that's bad enough. But suppose the bowler bowls a googly, and the batsman nonchalantly picks up the googly and hits it for a sixer. That's even more humiliating. That means you do your best and it turns out to be insignificant. So it's like that for archers. There are various, an archer shoots an arrow and archer misses the target. Now that's bad enough. You're supposed to be hit the target. But the archer shoots the arrow and the arrow doesn't even reach the target. You can hardly imagine anything more humiliating for an archer. And that is what happens to Arjuna. His arrows fall short. And he could have chosen to be humiliated at that time. He was shocked, he was shattered, he was devastated. But his realization is that it was Krishna who gave me this ability. That teja, Dev Vismapanam Mahat, that teja, that prowess which had even astounded the gods. Tena me apahritam tejo Deva Vismapanam Mahat. That Lord has departed, and with him my ability has also departed. So when we understand this, then our Krishna consciousness goes at a much, much deeper level. That actually even my ability is coming from Krishna. So my endeavor is, yes, certainly we have to have the intention, we have to make the endeavor, we have to practice, we have to make the efforts, but even our capacity to endeavor comes from Krishna. In that way, externally and internally, it is Krishna who is maintaining us. And this way we understand that actually Sarva Krishnamaya Jagat, Krishna is everywhere. So that is Goptrutve Varanam Tatha. That is the fourth one. The fifth is what? Fifth element of surrender. Does anyone remember? Atmanikshep. That offering ourselves. I was talking about A, B, C. So when this particular thing as I was talking about was, the fourth was D. I presented the dependence. We realize our constant dependence on Krishna. It's not that just Krishna protects me in extraordinary situations, but I'm constantly dependent on Krishna. Then Atmanikshep is E, I talked about engagement of our entire being in Krishna's service. That as devotees, we often try to serve Krishna, and now surrender has many aspects to it. One time one devotee asked me, he said he heard in a class that when we give something to Krishna, no, Krishna doesn't see what we give, Krishna sees what we hold back. So he asked me, why is Krishna such a demanding God? So I told him that it is not that Krishna doesn't see what we give. Yes, Krishna sees, Krishna values, Krishna appreciates whatever we give. But ultimately, what Krishna wants to see is, Krishna doesn't want the things of the world. Krishna doesn't want our wealth, our talents. Krishna wants our heart. And when we are holding something back, that indicates that we are not yet offered him our heart. So offering our entire being as an Atmanikshep, that it's like when we offer our entire being, that is an indication that we are offering our heart to Krishna. Krishna appreciates even the smallest offering. So in the Bhagavad Gita in 7:17, Krishna says that Krishna talks about 4 categories of people who come to him. That's 7:16. And then he says 7:17, Udaraha sarvaivaite. Jnanitvatmayam. Tesham jnanitva bhakti risheshe. Then Udaraha 7:18 is Udaraha sarvaivaite. Now Udara, Krishna uses the word Udara. Now this largely means charitable, large-hearted. So Ramanujacharya in his Gita commentary gives a beautiful explanation for this. He says that Krishna is so hungry, so thirsty, so eager for our devotion that even if somebody comes to him for any reason, even for their own worldly gains, Krishna is extremely happy. Oh, you're such a large-hearted soul. You come to me. You offered your prayers to me. Like say, a child has become a child and they become a teenager or adult. They become estranged from their parents, and then they go away. They don't even stay in touch, and then the child is in big trouble. And the child finally calls the parents. Now, when the child calls the parents, are the parents going to say, "It's only because you are in trouble you're calling me"? No. A loving parent will say, why did you take you so long to call me? You could have called me earlier. So Krishna is like that. Udara. He's so appreciative. So even the smallest offering we make, Krishna is pleased by that. Krishna is delighted by that. At the same time, Krishna, he wants us to experience eternal love, eternal joy. And that will happen only when our heart is offered to him. That I started by talking about how if you use the medical metaphor, it is that bhakti is meant to cure the misdirection of our love. And curing that misdirection of our love means that we offer our heart to Krishna. If we are offering a part of our heart, then okay, one part of our heart is at least being redirected toward Krishna, but our love is also directed toward many other things. So when we direct our love entirely toward Krishna, that is Atmanikshepa, giving our entire being to Krishna. So when Srila Prabhupada, when he went at the advanced age of 70, he came to America. Now, Prabhupada could have very easily lived in Vrindavan. In fact, that itself, his leaving his home to go and stay in Vrindavan, that itself was a sign of renunciation. That itself was a sign of devotion. And many people who do that, they think, now that my age is increasing, many people take like a kshetra sannyas. I will never leave Vrindavan. This is where I have come, and this is where I'm going to now leave my body. But Prabhupada was coming to Vrindavan and constantly was going. He was going to Delhi to print his magazines, to distribute his magazines, to print his books. And then finally he left Vrindavan to come to America. So Prabhupada could have offered his life to Krishna. In fact, his life was already offered to Krishna. But Prabhupada wanted to fulfill Krishna's desire. Prabhupada felt that the Lord's prophecy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prophecy, that in every town and village, the holy names of Krishna will be chanted, Prithviteya Chaitanya Garadigram. That prophecy, what Prabhupada saw was that the Lord's prophecy, somebody could have said, oh, it is Krishna's prophecy, then he will fulfill it. But Prabhupada saw it as my responsibility. My Lord has said this, so it is I who have to make sure that it is true. So Prabhupada took that, and it was almost his coming to America at that age was like a last ditch effort. Okay, this is the last thing I can do in my life, let me do it. Once one of his disciples asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, your godbrothers went to UK. So why did you decide to come to America? Now there could be different reasons. Then we can say after the Second World War, UK's position went down, America became much more important. That's why Prabhupada came to America. But at this point, Prabhupada gave a just sweet, he said, my godbrothers, they went to UK and they didn't succeed. I thought, they had gone when they were young. He said, I am going when I'm old. I thought, if I am going to fail, let me at least try in a different place and fail. So Prabhupada, he was completely devoted. You could say, there was no guarantee of success. In fact, all chances were of failure. But still, I am committed. In fact, I said that this engagement of ourselves means we are committed to Krishna. So the offering of our entire being in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhakti Sam Siddhu, one of the qualities I described is to be Asha Baddha. That means to have, Prabhupada translates, have hope against hope. Because even if our spiritual life, our spiritual growth, our attainment of love for Krishna, our attainment of Krishna, it seems like a very far-fetched, unrealistic prospect. But a devotee never loses hope. There it is said, even if Krishna comes and tells a devotee that you are so fallen, you are never going to come to me. But still the devotee says, Krishna, I know nothing except to serve you. I am going to offer my entire being to you. And this offering their entire being to Krishna, this is ultimately demonstrated by the gopis. The gopis, there are many pastimes, and this is a whole big subject, but I'll quickly mention this, that offering everything to Krishna, that is extremely difficult. So we could say there are various levels of offerings to Krishna. See, sometimes we, for moving in our journey towards, if Krishna is here, in our journey toward Krishna, sometimes we may give up bad things. So what we sacrifice for Krishna. Sometimes we give up bad things. So for example, somebody might be having some unhealthy habit. Okay, this is not a good thing. I need to give it up. That is fine. So we give up some bad things to Krishna. But then it is, say, good things we give. That means, good things means it's like sometimes some people, they want to give charity. Okay, this food is already nearly spoiled. I'm not going to eat it. Let me give it to someone. Okay, at least you're not just throwing it in the dustbin, you're giving it to someone. That's good. That's we give. I saw one quote: give God what is right, not what is left. So, okay, there's I think Bhakti Thakur will tell that story. There's a Brahmana who was very hungry, and one time he got food, but he was so desperately hungry that he forgot to offer it, or he neglected to offer it. He was about to eat it, and he was about to eat it, and then suddenly a gust of wind came, and he had some like rice, puffed rice or something. It just flew away, and as soon as it flew away, he said, "Narayana samarpayami." So I offer it to Lord Narayan. So sometimes that which is anyway we're going to give up or we're going to lose, offering that to Krishna is okay. That's not the best thing, but something which is good, something which is valuable for us, we offer it to Krishna. Like sometimes some people have an altar, but the altar is in some small tiny closet. But a serious devotee, altar is like the central part of the home. Why? Because Krishna is the Lord of the home, so we offer good things to Krishna. That's even better. But then, generally speaking, we expect some reciprocation. If I'm offering something good, okay, then people should praise me to be charitable. So, in general, when we offer some good thing, we get some reputation. But if by serving Krishna, in serving Krishna, we have to sacrifice our reputation, that is even more difficult. Like if we saw this heart-wrenching drama. Now, generally, if in a pious society, if somebody is devoted, not everybody will respect, but at least many people respect. Yeah, you're a good person. But just for your devotion, you are persecuted. It's horrible. For your devotion, you are considered to be a criminal. So, at least in that case, yes, there's legal persecution. But for the gopis, when Krishna called them at night, and they just left everything, they practiced sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. And they did that. But when they were doing that for a young unmarried woman to go out at night to be with another man, that was like civil suicide in that society. Reputation would be ruined. Reputation ruined means his life would be ruined. But the gopis didn't care for that. So they were ready to have a reputation that would be terrible for Krishna's sake. So that shows their surrender. But the worst is you give up your reputation for Krishna's sake, and then at that time you get rejection from Krishna. You give up everything for someone, and that person gives you up. That is the most difficult to bear. So in the Bhakti Sutras, it is said that the test of bhakti is that there is every reason to give up Bhagavan, and still the devotee does not give up Bhagavan. So the gopis could have rejected Krishna. No, we gave up everything for you. But now this happened once in the Ras Leela when Krishna went away, but he came back. Second time it happened, and Krishna left Vrindavan and went away. And the gopis could have said, you've forgotten us, we'll forget you. But the gopis were still remembering Krishna, still waiting for Krishna. Now, it's at one level Krishna left them and went away. That rejection was external. Krishna actually entered much, much deeper into their hearts. So, the gopis had completely offered themselves to Krishna. That's why Krishna says, I cannot repay you. The level of your devotion is so great that you will be satisfied with this devotion. There is no wealth greater than this devotion that can be offered to you. So sometimes this happens for us, that when we are practicing bhakti, we may lose our material comforts. We may lose our material things may go wrong in our life. Say, okay, still we maintain our devotion. Sometimes we are practicing bhakti and we start losing our taste in bhakti itself. At least I may lose material things, but I have my taste in bhakti. When I chant the holy names, when I sing in kirtan, I feel something spiritual. I feel something, some strength, something divine. But sometimes even that goes away. So externally, when we lose things in our life, and internally we lose taste in Krishna, that is the biggest taste. To lose taste is the ultimate taste. Because when we lose taste, that time, are we practicing bhakti for our sake or Krishna's sake? That, am I chanting because it makes me happy or because of my love for Krishna? I want to make him happy. Now that loss of taste is not permanent. But when that taste gets lost, we come in front of the deities and we feel nothing. And we start thinking, why am I here also? And we feel nothing, that's bad enough. And we see everyone else dancing in ecstasy. That makes us feel even more miserable. Oh, why am I not experiencing anything? So that can feel like a rejection by Krishna. But if at that time we maintain our bhakti, then we win Krishna's heart by that. So this Atmanikshep, offering our entire being to Krishna, means that even if we lose bad things, we lose good things, we lose our good reputation, a good name, we lose even our taste, still we continue. And that shows that in one sense, our heart is completely redirected toward Krishna. And then that brings us to the last part, that is Karpanye. That Karpanye means that a devotee feels my life is worthless without Krishna. That without Krishna, I am nothing. And this is a theme that comes repeatedly. Now, this theme can come at various levels. I was once giving a class and I was talking about how the Vrajavasis, this was in India, I said the Vrajavasis don't accept Krishna to be God. And one person in the audience says, I also don't accept Krishna to be God. Now, there is a big difference, the Vrajavasis, they are in transcendence. And this person is in ignorance. So they don't know that Krishna is God, whereas the Vrajavasis, their love for Krishna is so great that the knowledge of his divinity is overshadowed. Because Swami gives the example, like the stars are in the sky even in the daytime, but the sun is so bright that the stars can't be seen. Like that, for the gopis, knowledge of Krishna's godhood, like the stars, it's there. But the sun of their love for Krishna is so great that they forget his godhood. But so similarly, this happens at two levels. We are talking about Karpanye. Like I said in our first session, that suppose somebody is addicted to alcohol and they tried to give up again and again, they're not able to give it up. And then they finally say, Krishna, oh God, they use the name Krishna, the God, whatever. I can't do it without you. I need you. Without you, I'm worthless. Now, in one sense, their being addicted to something like this is a sign of ignorance. That tamoguna, tamas, the darkness of the material world, has a very strong grip on them. And at this stage, without you, I am nothing. That is, in one sense, it's a reality. Even materially, it's a reality. That person will backslide into a relapse and into re-addiction if they don't have that shelter of God. But even that is good. However, this Karpanye is at the highest level of devotion, the last limb of surrender. So it is not talking here about a person who is materially worthless because they are in the clutches of something destructive worldly. Rather, here at a transcendental level, a devotee feels, without you, I am worthless. My life has no meaning. As Mahaprabhu says, Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me. So here we could say it is out of need. Without you, I will backslide into self-destruction. But here it is simply out of love. It is that when there is a very deep sense of love, if the person whom we love is not there, we start feeling, what is the point even of loving? So what is the point even of living? Now this happens even at a material level. If there is a very deep relationship, and in my family, my great-grandfather, grandmother, they were together for almost 70 years. And my great-grandfather passed away and he was sick. But within his passing away, within 1.5 months, my great-grandmother was not very sick, but she just passed away. She just couldn't live without him. So now there were no like very expressive expressions of romantic love or something like that. But there was a deep relationship. So sometimes when there is love, a person feels that without that other person, what is the point of living? So this, a devotee feels at the highest level. My life without you, Krishna, it is meaningless. That I live for you, Krishna. And this realization is not because the devotee is actually in some grip of some self-destructive habit or something like that. A devotee can be very competent. The Pandavas with themselves were very, very powerful beings. They were very powerful Kshatriya warriors. And yet Kunti Maharani, when Krishna is about to leave, she says that, my dear Lord, if you leave us, then we are just like senses without a body without life, senses without life. That Rishikanam iveshituhu. So that is not that the Pandavas were literally worthless. The Pandavas are powerful beings, but that's the feeling, the feeling that comes because of love. So at the highest level, for a devotee, it is that I am worthless. Now we cannot imitate this feeling initially. Sometimes some conditioning catches us, and sometimes that gives us our realization that we are worthless without Krishna. We may think I am very pure. I was in Tucson, so I met one person. He had been a part of one of these Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the other anonymous groups. And he said that I was in the clutch of addiction for a long time and I gave it up, and now I've come to bhakti. He said that there is a higher power, and I completely believe there is a higher power. But then when I came to bhakti, I understood what that higher power was. So now I'm trying to come in the conscious, I'm trying to stay in conscious presence, conscious connection with that higher power regularly, through the chanting, through the practice of bhakti. But he's telling one of the things that we learn, he says, I practice this. Suppose somebody is a drunkard, and that person, somebody is alcoholic and they give up alcohol. There is the tendency that, okay, now I have become sober. And then you may say that, then after you see somebody who is drunkard, then we may feel that, oh, this is just such a degraded person. But the mood over there is, they say that what we learn, and I thought this is a wonderful thing for us as devotees to contemplate also. My dear Lord, without your mercy, that is what I would have been. That, if I'm not an alcoholic now, I'm sober now, it is because of your mercy. Otherwise, I would have been in a similar condition. Sometimes we may see people who are not devotees, and sometimes they are engaging in all kinds of worldly attachments and sensual things and even degraded things. And they feel, oh, these people, we may become disgusted. We may feel like these people are so fallen. we may get a holier than thou attitude, but rather it's without Krishna, maybe that might have my plight, but that will bring more humility for us. So for us, this realization, without you I'm worthless, that can come in various ways. And wherever we get that realization, that is favorable for us. So generally when we try to practice bhakti, we think that as I grow in bhakti, my attachments, my conditionings will go down. And yes, they do go down. But sometimes we may have some conditioning that we just not able to give up. It may be greed, it may be jealousy. I was talking with one devotee, he was complaining a lot about another devotee. And I said, Prabhu, it sounds to me as if you are jealous of that devotee. He said, no, of course not. He says, I'm just unhappy that good things are happening to him and they're not happening to me. And then when he spoke that, then he stopped. Oh God, I am jealous. So sometimes we don't even realize that we are under, we have some conditioning that keeps holding on to us. And we pray, we chant, we try to practice bhakti. And sometimes we start thinking that, is this bhakti process not working? Why is this conditioning not going away? But sometimes what Krishna may be doing is that Krishna wants us to have humility first and then purity later. Because if we get purity first, then purity can very easily lead to pride. I have given up this attachment. These people are so attached. So when that happens, then the pride of purity is actually the subtlest and sometimes the strongest form of pride. And that can keep us, so like we rise above others, but we are rising up not to look at Krishna, look up at Krishna, but we are rising up to look down at everyone else. So we are not Krishna conscious. Like somebody may fast Nirjala on Ekadashi, and they fast Nirjala on Ekadashi, and they're not chanting Hare Krishna, or they may be chanting Hare Krishna, but their mind, their eyes and mind are, okay, who is going to the kitchen? And then who is eating how much? So attached, such a sense gratifier, such a glutton. So they may be fasting, their body may be fasting, but their ego is feasting. And that purity is not of much spiritual benefit. That's why if we are fighting against some conditioning and it's not seem to go away, it may be anger issues, we may have craving issues, whatever it is we have. If it is not going away, then rather than thinking the process of bhakti is not working, we think that actually it is Krishna wants me to develop humility. That eventually when we do develop purity, we will realize this is not my doing. This is not due to my doing. It is due to Krishna's doing. So humility first means purity is not due to my doing. Eventually when we do get purity, we'll accept that this is actually due to Krishna's doing. Due to, that means it is Krishna who enabled me to develop this purity. So sometimes when we find ourselves not caught in some condition or condition that we are not able to solve, we can see that as an opportunity to develop this mood of karpanya, this mood of utter dependence on Krishna. Now what is important is that we don't forget that it is the connection with Krishna that is important. Sometimes this I'll conclude with this one last point about this karpanya. The mood of karpanya should increase our connection with Krishna, should increase our desire and longing to connect with Krishna. Sometimes we may say, I am a fallen soul. Now when we say this, sometimes we emphasize the fallen part so much that we forget the soul part. What that means, that actually even fallen is just a temporary situation. We are first and foremost souls, and every soul is eternally a part of Krishna. And every soul is loved by Krishna. No matter what conditionings we have, no matter what obstacles, whatever wrongs we may have done, Krishna never leaves our heart and goes away. There's nothing we can ever do that can put an end to the infinite's infinite love for us. So Krishna loves us, and Krishna's love for us, it is based on who he is. It is not based on who we are. That means that this is primary. This is not that. Whoever we may be, however fallen we may be, Krishna loves every one of us. It is not based on who we are. Of course, if we turn to him and we strive for purity, we try to focus our heart on Krishna, naturally the relationship becomes much sweeter. It's like parents always love their children. But if the child is irresponsible, whimsical, disorderly, still the parents love the child. But that bond is not as sweet as when the child is responsible, the child is diligent. So Krishna wants us to love him. Krishna wants us to become pure. But Krishna's love for us is not based on our purity or impurity. Krishna's love for us is independent of our state. So by understanding this, we make sure that the feeling of karpanya, that feeling of helplessness without Krishna, that does not have a negative effect. In terms of thinking that, we say I'm worthless without Krishna, and then we just give up Krishna, I'm worthless. That is all that is there. So to feel I am worthless, that is not psychologically healthy. And that is not the spiritual mood. The spiritual mood is I am worthless without Krishna. That without Krishna is itself a sign of Krishna consciousness. When we start focusing, say for example, if I am here and there is some conditioning which seems too huge to me, I'm giving it up. I'm trying to give it up, and there is Krishna over here. So now that conditioning is something which, let me put this here. See, that conditioning may seem much closer to us, and now we sometimes relapse into the conditioning. We fall back, we get angry, we succumb to some cravings. So when there are relapses like this, so sometimes when that happens, that may make us feel fallen, that may make us feel guilty. And in one sense, a feeling of guilt can be good. But the guilt, when it comes, actually the guilt should come here, between us and that wrongdoing. That means, I don't want to do this again. But sometimes this guilt ends up coming over here, between us and Krishna. That means we start thinking that actually I tried so many times, I cannot give up this conditioning. So what is the use of practicing bhakti? We can't give up the conditioning, so we give up Krishna only. If that discouragement with our conditioning is stopping us from moving toward Krishna, then we need to know that this is not guilt. This is pseudo guilt. This is actually Maya. That this is something, anything that keeps us away from Krishna, anything that takes us away from Krishna, anything that even stops us from moving toward Krishna, that is Maya. Even if that is the bad feeling that comes because of our not being able to stop doing something bad, that can also be Maya. So of course that doesn't mean we justify and perpetuate whatever wrong we are doing. We try to resist it. But nothing should ever nothing should come between us and Krishna. Even if we have conditionings, Krishna still accepts us with our conditionings. And some conditioning will take more time to go, some conditioning will take less time to go. So that karpanya is, I am worthless without Krishna, but I will never choose to be without Krishna. That I will always be with Krishna. And at the highest level, a devotee is fully competent, and yet the devotee feels, without Krishna, my life is having no value. Therefore, no matter how many things go wrong in my life, I will always be with him. So that a devotee in many things, that sometimes there is, in the impersonal idea, there is, they have the urge to merge. Okay, so we should just merge into Krishna, but a devotee has no urge to merge. But there is actually merging in another sense. Merging not in the sense of dissolving of our being, it is in the absorbing of our consciousness. A devotee becomes so absorbed in Krishna, a devotee forgets everything else. I have no existence separate from Krishna. The devotee's existence is completely absorbed in Krishna. So if at all there is any merging, it is not a dissolution of being. It is not that our existence dissolves, not at all. It is rather an absorption of heart, of consciousness, that our being becomes absorbed in Krishna. And that's how this karpanya, it is not self-centered, oh, I am worthless. It is, without Krishna I am worthless, so therefore I will always be with Krishna, no matter what happens. And in that sense, this Atmanikshep and Karpanya are similar. Atmanikshep, I want to offer my entire being to Krishna, and Karpanya is, without Krishna, what is the point of my being? I want to be with Krishna always. So this is the summit of surrender. So I'll quickly summarize what I discussed. So we talked about protect in the morning today, and now we discussed about the last 3 elements of surrender. The first one we discussed was about how Krishna is the maintainer. That gratitude for the extraordinary is ordinary, but gratitude for the ordinary is extraordinary. That God gives and forgives, we get and forget. To see that how I talked about how our endeavors, first we see them as primary, then we see them as secondary, and we see our endeavors are also, they are dependent on Krishna's arrangement. We cannot even endeavor without Krishna's arrangement. That's how even our arrangements to maintain ourselves are by Krishna's arrangement. That is, Krishna is the maintainer. Then second part to discuss was engage. So this was Atmanikshep, engagement of our entire being, offering our entire being to Krishna. So here I talked about how we may give up something, some bad habits we give up for Krishna, some leftover things we give to Krishna, some good things we give to Krishna, some highly valued things like our reputation we give up, we are ready to sacrifice for Krishna. But at least we expect some reciprocation, but we don't get anything at that. Like that's what happened to the gopis. Oh, the gopis, they gave up their reputation for Krishna's sake, and then Krishna seemed to have rejected them. And yet the gopis didn't reject Krishna. Prabhupada was already a renunciate. When the Brajavasis started thinking, why is his Swami so attached? Why is he going back to the cities again? That's the place of Maya. Prabhupada didn't care. Prabhupada went to America all the way. And even in America, he seemed to be getting no results. It's almost like, was Krishna rejecting him? People were not interested. Prabhupada still kept going on and on. So offering our entire being to Krishna, that is Atmanikshep. That is also element of surrender. And lastly discussed is Karpanya, the futility, that we feel that our existence is worthless without Krishna. At the level of transcendence, it's out of love. At the level of ignorance, it may be out of need. For us, whatever be the reason why we feel that futility, whether it is out of because we have some conditioning that we can't give up, or because we are in love with Krishna. Anyway, the focus has to be on Krishna. If the focus is on ourselves, then we may just, I'm worthless without Krishna, can become I'm worthless. And that is psychologically unhealthy. Rather, if our feeling that I'm worthless is making us discouraged in connecting with Krishna, then give up the feeling that I'm worthless as a worthless thing, as a temptation coming from Maya, and focus on connecting with Krishna. In this way, from wherever we are, we can cultivate this mood of surrender and go closer and closer to Krishna till we ultimately attain his lotus feet. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Do we have time for one or two questions if anyone has? Yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very, very powerful, especially these points that you were ending with. I always had this concern, even growing up also. It looks like even in Bhagavatam that for any devotee to come out victorious, unfortunities have fallen upon them, right? And you also gave so many examples. Prabhupada went through it. My life, my Guru Maharaj's gone through it. All gopis have gone through it. Maharani Kunti has gone through it. Pandavas have gone through it. So does that mean that to become a pure devotee or to go back home, back to Godhead, you really have to go through some big adversities? Because I'm very scared. I love Krishna, but my fear is that I'll go through that car wash and it'll be like power car wash. I won't come out. I'll just dissolve there. All these devotees have successfully come out. Any chance anyone can just be very merry-go-lucky and just go back home, back to Godhead, or should they go through adversities?
Well, there is no rule that everybody has to go through adversity to go to Krishna. See, the important thing is that if we consider our journey, say we are here somewhere on the journey towards Krishna. So if we look at our life, at least I can say for myself, it is not that I was really searching for God. I was searching for some meaning in life. But if I've come some distance, it is not because of me. It is often in spite of me. I have my conditioning. I have succumbed to my conditioning. But still, Krishna is taking us forward. So we could say, Krishna has got us this far. You can say we played some part, but Krishna has got us this far, not to abandon us now. But if he has got us this far, he will get us all the way. So yes, adversities may come. There's no necessity that adversities have to come, but there's no guarantee that adversities won't come. But the point is, Krishna has got us this far. It is not to abandon us now or in the future. It is he is with us, and just as he carried us till now, he will carry us forward. So that's why let's not be so much adversity conscious. We can be Krishna conscious. And then whatever adversity comes, Krishna will guide us to it, go through it. Okay, thank you.
So Krishna, when we reject, Krishna will take us forward, right? What happens in the state of rejection? We discuss
Yeah, when that phase of rejection seems to be there, see, that is a temporary phase. So I said the test of a very high test of devotion is the loss of taste. Loss of taste in Krishna. So that is a phase. We need to go through that at times. And it is not nothing in this world is permanent. And Prabhupada was asked, in the Abrahamic religions, there's the idea that hell is eternal. When Prabhupada was asked, is hell eternal? Prabhupada said, nothing except ecstatic service to Krishna is eternal. So everything else is temporary. So in that phase, when we lose taste for Krishna, then if in general, if we have built a network of relationships or a network of connections with Krishna, then say even if I lose my taste in chanting, but still I have devotee friends. You know, if at the end of my life, if I wanted to be counted among some people, everybody has issues, but devotees are better than people who are not yet devotees. So just because of that social connection, we stay with devotees, and that helps us to go through that phase. So even if we go through the dark phase, in the Christian tradition, they use the word the dark night of the soul, where the soul loses the conviction even in the existence of Krishna. And that can happen. We shouldn't, if some devotee who is seriously practicing bhakti, they go through some crisis and they start asking questions. You know, does God even exist? Now, other devotees shouldn't be piling and shaming them. How can you ask such a question? Yeah, no, everybody goes through phases. And sometimes it's a difficult phase. And Draupadi, when she was dishonored, when she met Krishna, after Krishna came to meet her in the forest, says, Krishna, why didn't you come to protect me? She says, I'm your friend, I'm your devotee, I'm your relative. I deserve your protection. Now Krishna does not tell her, who do you think you are to question my judgment? I'm God, I'm all perfect. Krishna doesn't say that. No, Krishna, he says, there was a demon Shalva who had attacked Dwarka. I was busy defending Dwarka. I didn't know this had happened. As soon as I came to know, I came here. And I know that during this time, you stuck to Dharma. And that is your glory, O Panchali. And those who have caused you tears, they will have to pay for their actions. So Krishna doesn't take although he is the holiest of all, Krishna doesn't take a holier than thou attitude with her. But yes, sometimes somebody go through difficulties. Now we have to understand that Krishna is big enough to accept us even with our negativities. That means we may have, even if we doubt his existence, sometimes we may get angry with Krishna. Krishna is big enough to accept our anger. Krishna is big enough to accept our doubts even about his existence. We may have that at times. And with our doubts or angers just like sometimes a baby kicks the mother. Now does the mother get angry and kick the baby back? Never. Is it? So the baby mother understands that mother still loves the baby, and the baby is going through his own thoughts, don't even know what he's doing. So Krishna is like that. Or he may like a baby. Sometimes even if a devotee in anger, sometimes devotees may feel betrayed by Krishna. That means, something very important for them is lost. Life can be hard. Somebody loses a loved one, somebody loses a child, somebody loses something very important for them. And they may feel, why did Krishna not protect this? Now, all of you told incidents about how Krishna protected in miraculous ways. And that's wonderful to see. But there are times when things may not happen that way. So if somebody is going through that, the other devotees should be understanding that, these phases come, but they will go. So we try to have as much of a network of connections with Krishna as possible, so that even if that our taste in bhakti goes away, there are other connections that are there. And devotees also need to be supportive in going through those phases.
Just to add one more, you said about purity, right? How do we know when we are pure? Like, how can we define that? What stage we are in?
One way to know our attachments is to try to notice what do we think of when we have nothing to think of. Means where do our thoughts go to? So just like if you consider this is the ground level. So if water is left loose, water will go to this level, isn't it? So like what is the ground level of our consciousness? So for an alcoholic, the ground level of the consciousness is alcohol. If I have nothing to think about, I'll go to alcohol. For somebody, it may be wealth. If I have nothing to think of, I start thinking, okay, how can I earn more money? How much money do I have? Wow. For somebody, it may be their family. Now, these are also, as compared to alcohol, this indicates a certain level of responsibility and commitment. That's good. In the sense of tamas, this is rajas. So where do our thoughts go when they have nowhere to go? So where they are going, that's where our consciousness, like default level is. And as our consciousness becomes purer, our default thoughts will go toward Krishna. That's when we have attained a very high level of purity. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, bro.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. My question is with regards to a statement you made that the only thing Krishna is hungry for is our love. But we also read about Krishna as being Atmaram. He is self-satisfied. So I'm not able to understand this apparent
Okay.
discrepancy.
So is Krishna self-satisfied or is Krishna hungry for our love? Well, in Krishna, all contradictions are reconciled. So at one level, it is not that when Krishna is performing Ras Lila with his devotees, in the copies in the spiritual world, he is glum. Because this Chaitanya Charan is so foolish, he's not practicing bhakti, told me. And Krishna is not like that. Now when Krishna is with one devotee, Krishna is fully with that devotee and fully reciprocating love with that devotee. But Krishna can be with multiple devotees at the same time. In the Ras Lila, it is not just that each gopi felt that Krishna is with me. Krishna was with her exclusively. So Krishna can simultaneously be fully joyful in this being with the spiritual world, reciprocating love with his devotees. And Krishna can also be concerned about us who are away from him. So in one sense, Krishna is fully self-satisfied. He doesn't even need the devotees in the spiritual world. So there is actually, let's put it this way, that there is the search for love that can come from two levels. The search for love, it can come out of a sense of incompleteness. So to remove incompleteness, just like I go out and search for somewhere where I can eat some food. So I'm hungry, so I'm going for searching for food. I may be searching for someone else because they will give me food. But otherwise, say I have so much food with me and I'm going out searching for someone. Not actually to give food to them, take food with me, but to give food to them. So the search for love can also be to share completeness. That Krishna is complete in himself, but he wants to share that completeness with others. So for Krishna, the search for love is not because he has something incomplete. He is complete fully. Now, of course, you could say that the state of completeness is from the perspective of Tattva. Philosophically speaking, Krishna is the complete reality. Om Purnam. Now, the sense of incompleteness that Krishna feels is from the perspective of Rasa. That Krishna wants loving relationships. So we could say that sometimes in this world we differentiate with wants and needs. That we should seek our needs, not our wants. But in another sense, Krishna does not need us. Krishna wants us. Krishna can exist without us, but Krishna wants us. So we could say that in one sense, like our relationship with our spiritual master. We need a guru, but the guru wants us. The guru is satisfied in their relationship with Prabhupada and Krishna. The guru does not need us. The guru wants us out of compassion. So it's a different dynamic. The emotion might be similar, but the dynamic is different. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Any of the Matajis have any questions? We'll stop with that question. Okay, this question and then hers. We'll stop after that. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So you mentioned how our effort is also Krishna's mercy. As in, so how does this have, as far as I understand, our free will, our intention is completely controlled by us 100%.
No, that's why I was very careful. I said our endeavor. See, I said that our free will is up to us, but our capacity to exercise that free will is not up to us. Say, for example, right now I want to speak about Krishna. You want to ask this question. Now that is coming from both of that, our desire, my desire, your desire, that's coming from me. But the speech mechanism by which we are able to speak, we haven't arranged that. So that is arranged by Krishna. So our endeavor is that, when I'm using the word endeavor, it is not our free will. It is our free will expressed through actions. That expression through action requires Krishna's role in it.
So just to confirm, our free will, whatever we whatever action we take with our free will, there's a possibility of it not coming to fruition because, or like our free will like is the actions that we want to take, but we may not necessarily be able to take those actions unless we have Krishna's mercy.
Yes, Krishna's mercy comes at various levels. See, for example, if I have free will, now from free will to action, that requires Krishna's mercy. From action to result, that requires Krishna's mercy. From result to satisfaction, that also requires Krishna's mercy. Because sometimes we get the desired result, but we just don't feel empty about it. Hey, God, what is the big deal, So Krishna's mercy comes at various levels. So you could say 1, 2, 3. All of these involve Krishna's mercy. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Mataji. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I had a question like, what are some ways in which I can express my gratitude to the Lord for protecting me? Like, how can I say a thank you to Him?
How can we express our gratitude to Krishna? Even the desire to express gratitude is also something which is nice to have that. Generally speaking, like there is gratitude. And then all of these, we can analyze them as, there is the emotion, there is the intention, and then there's the action. So, in one sense, if we are just grateful, that itself makes Krishna happy. Like sometimes nowadays, many people have pets, and somebody may have a dog at their home. And when they come back home after a hard day's work, I saw one car bumper sticker. She says, the more I get to know people, the more I love my dog. The idea is people sometimes betray us, people trick us, people disappoint us. So I just love my dog. But the point is, often taking care of a dog is a lot of effort. But what happens when when the dog owner comes back home and the dog immediately jumps up and down and his tongue comes out, his tail is wagging, and the dog owner just feels so happy seeing the happiness of the dog. So similarly, if we come in front of Krishna and we're just happy, then Krishna is happy with it. Krishna's happiness is in our happiness. Now that doesn't mean that anything and everything that makes us happy will make Krishna happy. If we are doing self-destructive activity, that's harmful. But the point is that just the emotion of gratitude, that our happiness, that is also a way of expressing our devotion to Krishna. Krishna is happy with just the emotion of gratitude also. However, we can do better than just the emotion. There is I want to reciprocate with Krishna. I want to render some service to Krishna. That can be intention. Maybe I can do this service, I can do that service. We can convert our home into a temple. We can spiritualize the atmosphere in our home more and more. We can come to the temple and do some services. Nowadays, there are so many ways. Technology has cut through barriers, so we can do so many services, even from our home itself. So that is, we have the intention of serving Krishna. And even if that intention is not translated into action, still Krishna is pleased. If the circumstances don't allow us, that is called as Manas Puja. That suppose I'm sick and I would like to fast, but I can't fast. Or I want to read Bhagavatam, but I just can't. At least I'm desiring to read Bhagavatam. Suppose I have my job or family, because of which I can't come to the temple. I would love to come, but there is just that desire to come to the temple, that intention, that itself is pleasing to Krishna. But if somebody always has intention and there's never action, then there is something wrong, isn't it? That generally Manas Puja is accepted by Krishna when the circumstances don't allow us to do the practical puja. So we try to translate. Maybe we have 100 intentions. Even having 100 intentions is wonderful, because that itself is indicating that we are rich with the desire to serve Krishna. Then translate one of them into action, and that itself is a way we express our gratitude to Krishna. So emotion, intention, action. That emotion of happiness, the intention to do some service for Krishna, and the action of tangibly taking up and doing some service for Krishna. There are various ways in which we can express our gratitude. Okay. So thank you very much. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Can we express our gratitude through our emotion, our intention, and action? There we go. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. So, do you all feel uplifted by the seminar? Yeah. We haven't had something like this for a long, long time. I think Rohini Priya Prabhu did something along this line, 10 years ago? But this, to do it in the temple, etc. How did that go? That was nice. Kept us from getting distraction, I think, from going one place to another place. So, thank you very much, Prabhuji.
I also want to thank Chaitanya Prabhu. He thought of this idea almost a year ago, last time when I had come, and then we have been in discussion, and finally we had many ideas of what we should do, but it worked out. I'm thankful for this opportunity, and I appreciate all of your dedication, Atmanikshep, spending so much of your time after a long week. I know you had several other guests before this week also, and then we had the festival. So thank you so much for your enthusiastic participation. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Maybe on your return, I always ask advanced devotees when they come here that maybe on the return flight to India they can stop by here. Probably not, but soon, hopefully, as opportunity allows. I wanted to also thank all the devotees that did so much service here, all of them. At various levels, the devotees who have been doing Krishna Kesha Prabhu for hosting and serving Prabhuji very nicely and very selflessly for all these. Yeah, it's nice, wonderful. And the devotees who've helped with cooking service, from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Vanmali Prabhu, Pavamana Prabhu, Madhusudan Prabhu, they've been doing it incessantly through these 4 days, and as a result they haven't been able to be here for the seminar itself, so maybe we can appreciate them with a loud Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And they did it without one word of complaint from what I saw, so that's really remarkable. I wanted to thank the pujaris for, I know you do daily deity dressing, but I think the pujaris, are also have emotion, and when they see the reciprocation of devotees coming here, being in the presence of the Lord, that inspires them to, okay, how can I create better ornamentation, etc. So thank you to Antakela Prabhu, Brahman Mad Prabhu, Sudhamparan Prabhu, and all the other devotees that have helped. I want to thank the decoration team. All of you have made innumerable garlands over the last week. All the beautiful decorations of the Lord, all the time you've spent. Thank you so much for doing that. And the devotees who are trying to clean the temple and just humble things, the hallway, bathrooms. Without you, that even the basics would not occur. So thank you all for doing. I just need to remind everyone that we had a humble request for two things. One is, if you're not a monthly donor, please become a monthly donor. That kind of sustained and steady contribution to the temple lets us know what we're capable of versus a hit or miss every now and then. It's hard to manage and plan a temple if this much is coming in and this much is coming in, this much is coming in, this much. You follow, right? It's like running a budget in your own home. You need that predictability. So if you're not doing that, do it whatever level you feel comfortable with. And it's not, Krishna's looking not at, that in that way, like, okay, this person's donating this much, that person donating that much. Whatever your capability is, please consider. Okay, we have a chart outside that's listing everything there, not for the manner of comparison, but to show Krishna that we're all offering our love at whatever capacity we have. So if you're not doing it, please do it. It's very important. Second thing is, now that we've internalized prasadam serve out and all that, you can see that we will need more help. One of the reasons we shifted during COVID to like prasadam serve out instead of serve in was because it was simply easier to pack boxes and keep devotees safe and let them go home and honor prasadam. Right? But we all know in management that there's a strong desire for devotees to associate together, right? And part of that is honoring prasadam together. But to do that effectively without getting burnout amongst 1, 2, 3, 4 people requires our entire temple to come together. Everyone can do some service every Sunday. We go to our home and we have relationships and we're expected to do some service at our home. This is our home too, and we should take care of it nicely and serve in whatever capacity we can, even a little bit. Brahma Prabhu was telling me before COVID, his service was to hand out forks and plates. I said, so yes, wonderful, continue. And he did it very nicely. And some devotees do cleaning bathroom, some devotees do cleaning hallway, etc. Some devotees help the pujaris, some devotees help cut veggies, some devotees help paint elaborate pillars. That made me so sad to see that pillar destroyed. Kind of like management mood. So thank you. And there's a help serve out prasadam in your own way. Thank you. We know you're all trying. None of this is perfect. Let's tolerate each other to the best of our capability, just like Krishna tolerates us. Okay, so thank you very much. I think my sons and devotees are sad to leave this, wonderful 4 days of associating with you and your deep connection with the Sampradaya and with Lord Krishna so nicely. Thank you for sharing everything. I think Prabhuji has some books that he'll describe. I think we've described them in the last couple of days, but I see some new faces today. So Prabhuji, would you like to go ahead and describe?
Many of the things that I spoke are given in this book, My Little Bhakti Companion. It addresses common challenges that we face while practicing bhakti. And there are a few other books. This is a quote with calendar with 365 quotes inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. Like I explained previously, whatever karma may get us to, Krishna will get us through. Quotes like that. And this is wisdom from the Ramayana on life and relationships. Life lessons from Ramayana about why do misunderstandings occur between sometimes good people, or when bad things happen in our life, how do we respond to them appropriately. This is about scientific and rational explanation of reincarnation and its mechanism, evidence for it in past life memories and other things. And then this is my latest book on the mind and managing it. You are not your mind, you are better. 64 reflections, and the kind of simple diagram that I was doing, they are there in this book also. So 2-page articles, 64 articles like that. If any of you would like to have these books, I'm available for some time. I can also sign the books. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
And then you can visit Prabhuji's website. Do you want to speak about your website?
GitaDaily.com. Gita Daily is a place where you have a lot of articles on the Bhagavad Gita, which you can learn. And then The Spiritual Scientist, where there are almost 8,000 questions on various topics that you can answer, and there are several thousand classes also there. Several hundred articles also, if you the resources available for going deeper into the scriptural wisdom and its practical application. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
And many of you know that Gita Daily is very systematic coverage of Gita. So when at the height of COVID, Prabhuji had said, we need both inspirational study and systematic study, yes? So it is a very functional way of doing systematic study, and within it, it contains a lot of inspirational instructions too. I forgot to thank the teams that did the youth drama. That was, I heard so many devotees saying how beautiful that was, how wonderful it was. Thank you all for, I think yourself and Ananya Mataji and Sonia Mataji. Thank you for doing the youth presentation. Gaura, you're a natural. You know? I'm just wondering, what do you do at home? You know, if you can act out like this here, it must be pretty incredible.